Hi, welcome to the Calsoft podcast series. This is your host Mark Rodrigues. With me today, I have Sagar Abhyankar, who is joining us after a long hiatus. Hi, Sagar.
Hey, hi Mark. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. It's good to have you on the show.
Likewise.
So Sagar is going to be discussing with us today storage hardware certification for vSphere. A quick recap on Sagar. He's a Scrum Alliance certified Scrum Master, and he's a certified manager of software testing from the VAAI Global Institute. He has more than 10 years of experience in testing and delivering world-class products that were developed using the waterfall model and the agile model. He's now a project manager here with us at Calsoft, and he's focusing primarily on QA solutions. In keeping in line with today's topic, he has also helped complete VMware certifications for some of the storage product companies that we are working with. So we have the right candidate with here for today's discussion. I'm going to jump right into the topic.
So before we jump, thanks a lot, Mark, for that introduction.
Brilliant. So what is VAAI?
Okay. So there are these storage software startups and companies which need their storages to be certified.
Right.
And as we know, VMware is one of the largest certification vendor.
Mm-hmm.
So these companies need those certifications authorized and certified by VMware.
Right.
So one of the certifications that is recently done is the VAAI block certification. It's called the VAAI block certification. It is nothing but VMware vSphere storage APIs, which is array integration certification for their storage boxes.
Okay, so tell me a little more about the different VAAI block primitives that you just spoke about.
Correct. So when any storage startup wishes to do any Y-block certification, there are some certain primitives that need to be met.
Okay.
Some feature sets, some functionalities that need to be met, which are predefined by VMware. So some of them can be dead space reclamation, thin provisioning space threshold warning. Again, on thin provisioning side, the thin provisioning stun. The VAAI thin provisioning primitives also need to be met for doing the Y-block certification.
Okay.
We also have the fast and file clone native snapshot support. This needs to be there for this particular certification as well. You also need to have extended statistics and reserve space. On the NAS primitive side, we also have the full file clone as one of the primitive there on the NAS side.
Right.
And again, to sum it up, we have the ATS only flag, extended copy, and write same 0. So these are some of the primitives. So based on the type of protocol that you choose for your Y, you need to have these primitives available, and then you can go ahead and certify your product.
Okay. So when we talk about VMware products, vSphere is one of the largest products that we can talk about, right? So can you tell us the difference between vSphere 4.x and 5.x?
Okay. So vSphere 5.x, 5.0 introduced for NAS primitives.
Yeah.
vSphere 5.0 also was introduced with the support for thin provisioning primitives and including the TP unmap primitives as well. So extending to your question, I would like to give you a trend over from 4.x to 5.5 till 6.0, which is recently being used.
Okay.
So if I have to quickly summarize and give a snapshot or a view of the different versions that were there and what is their significant differences. With 5.0 we had a virtual hardware of 8. With 5.1 it was of 9. With 5.5 it moved on to the virtual hardware version of 10. Okay. And with 6.0 it's now virtual hardware having 11. So if you ask me how many virtual machines per cluster does it support, so on the 5.0 it used to support roughly about 3000 virtual machines per cluster. With 5.1 it moved to about 4000 odd number.
Right.
With 5.5 nothing changed. From 5.1 it stayed back to somewhere ranging that number itself, which was 4000. Okay. But 6.0 has a significant jump from what 4000 it used to support with 5.5 to now roughly about 8000 odd.
So that's close to 100% jump.
That's close to about 100% jump.
Okay.
One more aspect is One more aspect is with the vVol feature set, the 6.0 does support vVol feature set, whereas vVol was not much supported in 5.0, 5.1, 5.5, but it has been made available in 6.0. Also the NFS support, if you ask me, it was of version v3 till from 5.1 till 5.5.
Okay.
So 5.0 also had v3 NFS v3 support. 5.1 also had NFS v3 support, so as 5.5. But with VMware vSphere 6.0, we have NFS 4.1 support, which not only supports multipathing, but also it supports Kerberos authentication as well. And with there's one more addition to it. The vSAN the vSAN support was not available until 5.5. In 5.5 they provided vSAN 5.5 support, and for VMware vSphere 6.0 they've provided with vSAN 6.0 support. So that comprises a holistic view of the journey from say 5.0 to 5.1 to 5.5 and now 6.0.
Okay, so you've thrown some light obviously on the journey that VMware has taken with its vSphere product. Now let's look at the storage aspect of it, right? If I'm a storage vendor and I wanted to get into this hardware certification, is there a process flow, or what are the steps that I need to follow for this?
Correct. So firstly and foremostly, you want to understand what all primitives or prerequisites does your storage software support,
Yeah.
as per VMware guidelines. Then what you need to know is whether the hardware through which you are doing the storage certification, the box, is it listed on VMware's HCL list, which is a hardware compatibility list. It does happen at times that by the time you end up signing the contract with the customers, with the end customers, and they freezing on the requirement, in terms of the functional specs as well, if the hardware that was signed off just goes off the HCL list, then there is a glitch here. Then VMware straight away rejects the application.
Right.
When you try to go for log sub, then we would say, then VMware would say that this hardware is no longer supported by us, and
Right.
it is no longer listed on our HCL list. So the first prerequisite is to understand the primitives that your product supports. What all features does it support as per VMware guidelines? Second would be to understand from which all hardware components and hardware boxes you would want to execute that particular test cases, that test suite, for the VAAI certification, and whether that hardware is listed on VMware's HCL list, which is hardware compatibility list. You also need the Technology Alliance Partnership credentials, which is the TAP credentials, along with the cert ID. And few SRs. So service requests need to be raised with VMware, based on which the entire tracking and closure of the entire process takes place. So if you ask me what is the process, so there are a few set of test cases predefined by VMware, which an individual needs after doing the setup of the hardware. The individual needs to execute those test cases through the workbench. Try to execute them, if there are any failures, try to analyze, debug, and find out what are those failures for. If those failures are pertaining to the product, then log a bug, and then you can't proceed with the certification unless there is a waiver. If it's a known failure, or this is what VMware expects you at this point to fail, your test case to fail, then there are different waivers which you can apply during the log submission. And mind you, there is no manipulation, or there is nothing, no more edits that you can do, because it is directly controlled by the system. The logs are auto generated, you have to execute it and trigger it through Workbench, so there is nothing much you can do unless you just want to debug and find out the failures, change the parameters, and try and re-execute it. So you need to execute those set of test cases. Once those test cases have passed or failed with waivers, then you need to collect all those logs. And then submit it to VMware along with your TAP credentials and SRs and cert IDs to VMware. VMware has their own process and review mechanism, where they review your logs, where they review the authenticity of logs and the storage box through which those logs are getting generated. and then they come back to you. If they have any queries, then as a service provider, what you need to do is answer to their queries. Either they will ask you to respond in terms of providing more details if there are failures, or they might ask you to re-execute a particular test case,
Okay.
if need be. Yeah, and then VMware just helps you certify the product. They give you a VMware Ready logo, and that's where in the market you stand a good amount of in short terms you catch lot of eyeballs. So when your product is VMware certified or a VMware Ready product, it speaks a lot about it, about your product.
Okay. So the product is easily sellable then?
It's easily sellable. It catches lot of eyeballs.
Okay. You've spoken about the process now and how you're using Workbench, etc. Is there any specific lab requirement for this?
Yes. So as I pointed out, we have the hardware compatibility list. It is essential that all the hardware and software components used or are going to use that we are going to use in the entire certification process are certified by VMware. So those are endorsed and VMware recognizes those. You cannot use just anything.
Okay.
VMware recommends using a rack mount server for this kind of test, and this server is currently or has to be listed on VMware's hardware compatibility list. If for any reason the hardware vendor has stopped manufacturing that particular version and has stopped listing it on VMware site, but in your contract with the customer you've agreed to certify on that product and you eventually go ahead and do that, then I doubt VMware would actually go ahead and give you that certification. Reason being simple, it's no longer listed on their HCL hardware compatibility list. So the key factor here is before we start the certification, we should understand what all hardware components are we going to use for this process, and are those listed on the HCL list, hardware compatibility list that is published by VMware.
Okay, so does it make sense for a storage vendor to be doing this certification themselves directly with VMware, or to involve a third-party service provider?
Involving a third-party service provider is a much more easier thing than getting involved into this directly, because of many aspects. One, the third-party vendor or third-party service provider understands the glitches involved. It looks pretty straightforward, but this is not at all that straightforward. As
the
much
final
as it
ones.
the final ones. And there are glitches involved in it. There are things which you need to troubleshoot, you need to understand. There are some do's and don'ts which you need to follow. So advisable is go to a third party vendor, get yourself product certified through their help, because they know how to execute a particular scenario. Even though storage vendors or storage startup products differ from companies to companies, still a third party service provider would have a sense of business knowledge in terms of how to execute it and how to get it much more faster than if I was to do it on my own.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, so Sagar has in depth answered why and how, but my follow-up question to you, Sagar, now would be who is this for? So does it matter if a company is in startup mode and is looking to do this, or only companies that are established and are looking to grow going to do this? Also, my follow-up question to this is, are large storage product companies who are now hiving off into different products, is this for them? Who is this for?
This is for anybody and everybody who wants to make business. Because VMware is one of those key players, I would say. So when a product is, say, VMware Ready, that gives the end customers some kind of satisfaction or some kind of confidence in their minds with the stability, reliability of the product. So for good business sense, anybody can go ahead and do it.
Okay, so right from a startup
So
storage product to...
Absolutely, right from a startup storage companies who are currently there, who are coming up with new feature set, who have already done a certification but now want to enhance their certification or upgrade their current certification to the latest feature set that they support, they can also get into this.
Okay, brilliant. Then thanks Sagar for your thoughts. Sagar has been involved in a lot of these storage certifications with us here at Calsoft, and he has worked with companies that are 5-man teams all the way up to large behemoths. So thanks, Sagar, for coming on the show again. It was great to have your inputs on this topic.
Thank you, Mark. Likewise.
For any feedback that you have about our podcast, or if you'd like to hear anything from our next podcast series, you can write to us at marketing@calsoftinc.com. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.